Today, Rinpoche gave a very clear explanation of how love is generated. Lessa.
Laris haji jina, laris haji watane, ane ma gomba tin, temba gomba tin, su gomba sonje.
Lesso.
Tambo ma gomba tala, lo balang sonje, shamba gomba, hiju gomba, hason gomba sonduwa. Wataringa tu shamba gomba tendo namara, shamba.
Okay, so once again, we're looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment. Specifically, just as a note, the section on training the mind in the stage of the path for beings of great capacity. So we're in this section on the 7-point cause and effect personal instruction passed down by Lord Atisha for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment. So when we look at it from the standpoint of the categories in the great treatise, we find that it's divided into various categories. First, beginning with the categories that lead up to love and compassion, and then into the categories that are a result of those. So the section is titled Having Affection for All Beings, and then there are 3 categories. Cultivating a recognition as all beings are your mothers, or the recognition that all beings are your mothers. Second category is remembering their kindness. And the third category is wishing to repay their kindness. Then the 4th category is love through the force of attraction. So all of these are causes of the next step, if you will. So the first 3 categories that we've already gone through lead up to where we're going to begin today. And that is, if you turn to the great treatise, to page 42, we have the development of the attitude of being intent on others' welfare. And here we have the next 3 steps, or if you will, the final 3 causes of bodhicitta presented. So the first, when we look at the 7-point cause and effect for realizing bodhicitta, or the mind that aspires to enlightenment, it's called cause and effect because these are causes and effects. So first we have the recognition that beings are our mothers, and then from that remembering their kindness, from that wishing to repay their kindness, and from that generating a love through the force of attraction or affection for all beings. So that's where we are. So you look at here, it says the development of the attitude of being intent on others' welfare has 3 categories: the cultivation of love, the cultivation of compassion, and the cultivation of wholehearted resolve. So that's where we are today, and we'll begin here. So anyone who has a book, that's where we are. And happy Mother's Day to everyone, because all sentient beings are our mothers.
That Lari Chimbajin de Lu, Lari Chimbajin Sonja Druge Ngul Martin Jibat Lu, Shamba Gumbi Rimba Nes, Sonja Dru Ngulma, Egungul Martin Jibat Dua Jiba, Shamba
Gombi Rimba Ne.
What
So we're going to begin 30. Why is this different? Just give me one moment. I just want to see. Shamba. All right. Then the Ngatsu Shamba Yunten Jetop, that's this Sar. The Sumja Nga, the Shamba Jansan Tang. The Shamba, the Gutsogudu, the
Shamba Gumbi Rimba Tarin Utanmando.
Okay, Gombi Rimba. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so where we're exactly starting is on page 43, where it says the stages of cultivating love are as follows. So I just wanted to know exactly where Rinpoche was going to start. So we're actually further than 42 or 43, where it says stages of cultivating. Okay, Dixon, Rasa.
Shamba Gumbi Rimba to what the Lari Chimatan rule, Goa Mando Goyas at Go. Goa Mando Goyas on Jajibi, Sachi Gujayore.
So in this section, where we have the stages of cultivating love, Jayan Sheba states that there are 9 different points that Lama Tsongkhapa makes in this section. So in the outline of Jayan Sheba, we're going to find those categories then broken down, or the different points pulled out of the text.
다 고고 나네 어때 담바 샴바 다 샴바 공부 메바 담을래 원래 샴바게 가르를 메네 샴바 공부하레스 메바
Lesso.
메바 간라 메네 아니 샴바 공부를 러바이나 메반데레스 다
Lesso.
샴바 공부 рем바네 토만자실라 공사 토마소소게 니 파마탄 어떤들 공부를 샴바데 토만자실라 공 되네 파마탄스 아니 수수니엘 공네 샴바데 아부종소나 되네 파마 자다니 가야 많이 밤이 생겨라 공부레스 되네 밤이 생겨라 샴바데 아부종소나 되네 달라 공부레스 달라 공부 샤신 되네 생제 타질라 렘바진도 고모스 어디 고이논 담부들에
Lesso. Okay, so the first category is called the object of observation of love. So Jayan Sheba says that's the first category. So when we look at, let me read this first. The stages of cultivating love are as follows. First, cultivate love toward friends. Then cultivate love for persons toward whom you have neutral feelings. Next, cultivate love towards your enemies. Then cultivate it gradually toward all beings. So here, this is showing how we cultivate love in relation to the 3 types of beings that we know. So first there are friends, and then there are neutrals, and then there are persons to whom we see as enemies. So these are the stages that we utilize to generate this love that will eventually have as its object of observation all sentient beings. So we begin first, it says, cultivate towards friends. So towards our friends, towards our relatives, and so forth, we do this familiarization or meditation towards generating love in relation to those objects of observation, which are our friends and relatives and so forth. Next, we move on to those neutral beings, beings who we don't have any partiality to, any kind of partiality towards. We're impartial, so we don't have any desire to harm or help. They're just neutral to us. And so the key in this part is to us. So these objects of observation are specific objects of observation that we have a relationship to. So it isn't general, it's more specific relationships that we have. So in this neutral part, there are people that we see, but they're neutral to us. And the reason for that is then after you move on to the next step, which is cultivating love towards your enemies, you then move to all sentient beings, meaning those that you don't have any interaction with, that you don't have to use as an object of observation that's as close. I'm trying not to be too loose with the translation, but to make it understood that here, this friends, enemies, neutrals. Neutrals doesn't mean everyone in this case. It means those neutral to us. So that's just a note, just for the use of the language in the Tibetan to really carry over into the English. And then says next, then cultivate it gradually towards all beings. So you work with your friends and relatives, then and generate love, and then you generate love towards neutrals, and generate love towards the hardest enemies, and then you try to make your object of observation bigger and bigger and grander to eventually arrive at all sentient beings. It says gradually towards, so gradually becoming greater, and eventually the object of observation of that love is everyone. Khensur Rinpoche.
다 샴바 공산 가르당 고선 샴바 대지로다 샴바 공서야 사울 대당 고레스 말베 안에 가루 도알 가브레 안에 네 파마라 소베니 가래 도와 조나냐베 사울 대 샴바 공바스 안에 밤이 세전 투소야 도완 도고레 코줄에 도와 조나냐 사울 대 샴바 공바스 그레스 안에 달에 도와 조나냐베 사울 대 샴바 공바 다냐 바마송래
Lesso. So what is this a meditation upon love. What does this mean? Or you can use in Tibetan language, the one we always use when we translate as meditation is really literally just familiarization. If you look at how to literally translate the word in Tibetan, that we always say meditate, which then brings different ideas into our minds sometimes, than familiarizing ourselves with something. I get to use the word familiarize, but realize it's usually translated as meditate. But it's more literal familiarize. So here, you are what are you familiarizing your mind with when we say meditating or familiarizing oneself with love? So we recognize that we want to have happiness. So we have a desire to have happiness. And all sentient beings, like ourselves, wish to have happiness. If we think, I wish all sentient beings had happiness, then this is meditation upon love. So we begin to familiarize ourselves with this idea first with our friends and our relatives, and we begin to establish this desire for them to have happiness. So we meditate upon this idea that we wish for happiness, and just like we wish for happiness, they wish for happiness, may they have happiness. So we begin to wish for their happiness through this familiarization. Then we move on to our neutrals, those who are neutral to us, and we begin that process where we wish for happiness for our neutrals. And then we move on to our enemies, and we try to familiarize ourselves to the point where we wish that all of our enemies had happiness or were happy. So after that, then we move on to all sentient beings. So this is familiarization with love. This is what meditation on love or familiarization with love refers to. Thinking again and again, sometimes it's even translated as that, thinking again and again, or instead of familiarization. So it's translated as meditation, thinking again and again, or familiarization, depending on who translates it. So thinking again and again, if you will, about relatives and friends having happiness, then neutrals, then enemies. And that's meditation upon love. Geshe Lharampa.
Well, daring dawa baba saga dawa la kare saga dawa. Saga monju dawa la kare. Shamba ji gomba ina, shamba monju gomba phen yoris. Na gawa kar druba ina, gawa thaji druba ina, gawa bon drub phen chobres.
Tearing Ami Duchen. Tearing the Ami Duchen.
Saga dawa.
Nietzsche.
Yeah.
So today on the Tibetan calendar, or we look at it, and it's part of what is called the Buddha month, so the month of the Buddha. So right now we are in that time, which is considered the month of the Buddha, and it's an important time because it's considered a time of increase. And what that means is that, in this case, we're speaking of love. If we familiarize ourselves with love or meditate on love just once during this important time, it's like doing it 100,000 times because of the power of this time period of the month of the Buddha.
Tere wo khan Amitabha se khan dongba ina, khan saji dongna, khan bongji dong phen yoris.
The Ami got it.
Just Amitabha se dong.
Oh, Amitabha. Okay, so when we look at mantric recitation, for instance, in the Chinese tradition, we have the Amitabha mantra. That is recited. And just by reciting that mantra one time during this time of increase, it's like doing it 100,000 times. So whatever virtue we engage in is the same with respect to that increase. Very of great benefit.
Shambi naba marbe naba rwa. Niba ase. Shambi meba ntuman zashi ta niba.
The Khandre. The Shamba Khandre gom. The
Shamba kare.
Nipa. The giant Sheba Ewa Nipa gare.
Niba.
Chishina Khandre.
Niba shambi naba naba.
Nampar the Sena?
Naba sena. Niba sinjen la mine shamba gumbu tel naba khashagres. Zuzi mishik zula mine zu naba shagarwa. Zu naba shagarwa. Shamba de sinjen la mine naba khashagres. 네 도와도 되는 거 삼바. what marbe.
Cultivate. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next category in Jayan Sheba's outline is just what it says here: how to cultivate love, the way to cultivate love. And that word "cultivate," Rinpoche said, when you see a form, you're cultivating the sight of a form. So that's how the word "cultivate" is being used in this case. So they've used the word "cultivate," which is fine. But what the meaning of it is like when you see a form, you're cultivating, your eye is cultivating that sight of a form. Here, how do you cultivate? How do you make that love occur? What's the process of love, really? The process.
Niba dawade, niba da shamba gumbi naba dro niba shamba gumbi naba. Niba shamba gumbi naba dawade. Tomanza shila gumbi da.
Chishin is sentient.
Gumbi chune senje na dunge chuyo ngasa na niji jiwa tar ane senje la saji dan same gdwa yoji deyu polo ngasa na samba sha des te kona dwa dan trendu ngangi jelas senje la mine dwa de trena nyabas naba derendo naba a ne gumbi jedar senje dunge chuyo ngasa na senje dunge senje ji dunge yana san naba yina ane niji jigaro was example niji jiwa tar ane senje la saji dan saba mebe dwa mejins ane senje la ane saji ki dwa yo mare same ki dwa yo mare mejin deyu phulu yang samba shates ane senje na wote saji to same ki dwa ki phulu dwa melu san yang samba shates te konas te konsona ane senje dusula mi ne dwa da trendu ngangi jonglas senje la mi ne dwa da den chima ronya be sanlo du yongres naba de marbe ngangi jongla te dwa tsuba na yila sang ne te da senje na la taba shawus dwa dwa ramana mamu yoro te sama wa dwa senje dul te jongna nya be gunga menro
The chupa bul dan drapudu.
taba shawus
The gomba.
sanlo dan ajuru sanlo
The tama, the sentient, the sanlo dan, then the chupa bul dan drapudu, the dewa chupa bul.
dwa chuba bizen ta chuba pyo ndabro ta ta
The NGK, the gewa chupa bul dan jar. The sanlo dan.
the san dan na digo yonro
Yuri. Okay. The way to cultivate love is as follows. Just as you can develop compassion once you have repeatedly thought about how living beings are made miserable by suffering, develop love by thinking repeatedly about how living beings lack all happiness, both contaminated and uncontaminated. When you become familiar with this, you will naturally wish for beings to be happy. In addition, bring mind to various forms of happiness and then offer them to living beings. Here, this is how the process of making love occur. This is how we make the realization of love happen within our continuum. It says, just as you can develop compassion once you have repeatedly thought about how living beings are made miserable by suffering. So here, we're repeatedly thinking how we wish that sentient beings, first our friends, and then our neutrals, and then our enemies, we repeatedly think that we wish they have happiness. So here we're thinking again and again about sentient beings having happiness, so wishing for them to have this happiness, and then recognizing that they don't have all forms of happiness, even if we look at it from a contaminated or an uncontaminated standpoint. So even all the forms of contaminated happiness that are possible, no one has. So these beings lack not only contaminated happiness, but of course uncontaminated happiness, pure happiness that will occur later, enlightenment. So it says, when you become familiar with this, you'll arrive at this desire for beings to be happy. So when we look at the four immeasurables, it says, may all sentient beings have happiness in the causes of happiness. That's familiarization with love. That line is referring to love through the force of attraction, this step that we're talking about. So it says that when you become familiar with this desire for all beings to be happy, then you arrive at this wish for everyone to be. So when you look at these different types of beings and analyze it in this way, and see how they don't have this happiness, and then you wish for them to have it. And then, as a meditation, it says, bring to mind various forms of happiness and offer them to living beings. Think about all the different forms of happiness that anyone can have, and then imagine that you're giving that happiness to those beings, those friends, those neutrals, those enemies, and then everyone. So this is the process of generating love. Just as a translator's note, the previous lines always matter because it will be this same. So it says friends, neutrals, and enemies at the top. So it's automatically assumed that those are the objects of observation for all of the rest of this discussion. And then, so friends, neutrals, enemies, and then everyone. So that's the process throughout this entire section, and it will be assumed that that is the object of observation. Disung, Sabuldu Rimche.
Okay.
The Tingenzi, the Do, Yure, then they.
Okay,
the Yure.
Shambi Pen, Shambagumbi Pen Roa,
Shambagum.
Shambagumbi is Minasu Gugan on Taniba Pen de Redo Pen. Niba Pen de la. What the Pen de Mayudu, Pen Tombute, Shambagumbi Pen, the thing as the Jabule and Dorodo. Thing as the Jabule,
Okay.
Shawat Tibi Shintana, Choba Namo Bame, Chenpa. Jeju Nala, Ti Ta Chebe, Shambi Senji Tandang, Chamapus, Ji Ngobu Shintu Jachi Yu, Ne Yu Tatubi, Shinla, Du Tatu, Cheba Le, Sunan Chi Chewa, Somba Dance, what the Shamagumbi Pen Son that Tambu Rendua. Diga Jabule, Shawat, TV Shintana, Shawat, TV Shintana, Choba Namo, Bame, Chenye Bas, Choba Nama said on Willa Subi Choba, Badu Maba Chenye, Ne Jeju Nala, and Jeju Nala Di, Ta Chubis, Jeju Sanjila Subatala, Tuta Choba Yu, Shambi Senji. Tandang Chamapus, Shamba Gomba, Shamba Taji Gomba de Sono Delichagres, Chamapus, Ji, Mabu Shindu Jachi, Utatubi, Shinla, Tuta to Choba Le, Sono Chewa Somba Dance.
That's so.
What the Nakasura, Mabu Shindu Jachi, Sengwila Suba, Saya Tuala Suba. Jachi, Utatuba, Sanjila Suba. Shinla Tutato, Choba Les, Tutatu Chogina Sona Chobro, Choba Le, and then Shambagumbi Sona Teleja Chegres, Shambagumba Ina, Choba Le, Sona Chewa Somba Dance, what the Tambo, what about the red?
That's so. So.
Tambo, anybody Tambro.
Sumba.
송바르베
Sumba.
원래 송바르
Giant Shiva Sumba.
네네
So category number 3 is the benefit of love. And if we go back a little bit in the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, we actually find a point made in a quote from the King of Concentration Sutra. So if you look at page 42 in the English, about midway down, it says, with respects to the benefits of love, the King of Concentration Sutra states, always offering to superior beings as many countless offerings as there are in billions of lands does not equal a portion of the benefit of a loving attitude. It says that the benefit of love has far greater merit than continually making vast offerings to the highest recipients, parentheses, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Here, the benefits of love are presented, and it shows how much greater meditating upon it is than even doing other very grand or great things that are virtuous. So it says, always offering to superior beings as many countless offerings as there are in billions of lands. So it's saying, if you were to be able to offer to the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, any superior being that exists, all the time, countless offerings, food, drink, whatever wonderful things there are to offer, if you were to able to offer all the time as countless amounts of those things to every holy being that exists, it says, does not equal a portion of the benefit of a loving attitude. So generating love, having this attitude of love towards others is so much greater than making offerings to every holy being that exists everywhere, every time, with everything. And if you were to do that, it would only be a little bit of the virtue that you get from that realization of love, that actual loving attitude. So that is the point that's made in number 3, and then
다 샴바고비 편제도지 샴바고비 편제가 난 담부들이 함은 샴바 좋아스 하담매 하주 가부지가 매 가부지가스 함은 샴바를 좋아 다스 담부레 함은 샴바를 좋아 담부지 하주 가부지가 매수 가부지가스 함은 샴바 좋아 다스 니반네 다다기장 송와다스 네 하다마도서 가바제바 마제 안는 다소기 송조제거스 송조 페트로를 말베 페트로
Yanjer, the summa ngatu ropache?
송만다보 어디 하다마도서 가술 가바제는 송와제거래 다근도스
protected. Okay. Lesso?
니바
Lesso?
송와다스 송바 이도와 안는 소소 생 지부 뭐 용거레스 다 샴바 공대한테 생 지부 요아레스 생 지부 용거레스 도와서들도 도와제
Lesso?
도와서야지로와 안는 와데 도와서야지 다드네 다 송바지로와 이도와시 소사 되네 송바로와 안다 제바 인제로다 제바 도다 안에 두번 도다 천지 면에 받아서 천지 나바다 면에 천지 면에 봐 인제로다 도기 샴바 공회들 도기 너그 말에 천차가 너그 말에서 샴바 공회들
Do the Mayimba, the do spirit?
샴바 공회들 메이나다 메마이마레나
Okay.
도기 너그 말에 천차가 너그 말에서
Okay.
천차가 너그 말에서 다
Okay.
다 듬바네 베바 메바레
Ngapa.
다 투바스 안 수수고 돈다도 그걸로 깔리면 레라버진 토용그레스
Ngatsu the susu dopa le labora.
레라버진 토용그레스 다
Okay. Ngap drupa.
주바들로 와데 주바 도도 천지 못 받아본도 바로지 체되나 하고
Drupa dang jipa chapagare.
주바 송바도 와데 지바 내부터 바로 체되나 지발 가도 주나
The tambo hlad the tambo hladan me gabul shegadu.
가버지도
Nipa the suma dandrar.
오래
Sumba the sem dewa. Jipa the du ngatsu menupa.
오래
Ngapa ngatsu dopa gariena le labora.
오더데
Drupa.
주바 도도 천지 못 봤어 도 그냥 말에 천지 내용 말했어
Then jipa chapa they dan jipa the du manupa. Jipa dan drupa chapagare rim.
지바도 그냥 어디지 체되면 와도 바로
Jipa ngama chiran the du ngatsu menupa.
어디 주바래 주바
Ale then a jipa gariena.
지바도 그냥 체되면 와
Gonga me pachik.
야
Ngama nge the nunder la yure inenge kermaso.
야
Chema
전에 와데 두천이면 dwi바 베바면 도바사 dwi바
paper me.
제바들레 샴바 공베 코알 좋아스 샴바 공게나 코알 준 타바투 그래 상지 그래스 어디 손인사 좋아다 제도사 좋아다 제도스 제바 체데나 그 제가서 제말라 좀 말해
Jemela.
야
The ni omare.
님도
Ni.
야야야
The ke omare rimche.
야야
Ke omare. Then ngatsu the chutsu jupa lena nge ragare.
야야
Ratugudu. Okay, so
Okay.
when we look at the benefits of love, we find that there are 8 categories, and we're gonna at break. I'm gonna get a couple of them because there's an omission, but I know where I can find them. There's an omission in the text here, so I know where I can find them. So we're gonna I'll give you 6 of the 8, and then after break, I can give you the other 2. So the first is that the gods and humans like you or will adore you. So if
알레
you,
당가 손데 노 라르시면 제사 라르시면 어때 송자 제게 올려야 티 송발도 송바 샴바 공베 샴발로데 제발라 송레 샴바 공베 메바스 샴바 공베 메바스 도데
the
베이 송자 제게 올려야 티 송바들도 송바
okay, sumja je.
송자 제게 올려야 티 송바들에 니발로데 제바 ngala 송레
Nipa
샤바 공부 메반들에 도와 메반네 도와다 메데미 시제 노스 담들에 도와 원데 눈데 가간데도 도와다 메데미 시제들 미네 안 도와다 데나냐 샤바 공부하레스 콜 도와 존나냐베 산루 땅고레스 도와다 메데미 시제 노스 다니바 나바 샤비 나바 가르서 나반데레스 다 도와다 테나 제마롱 향바당 도와다 테바 주지 향바 도와다 테바 수제바오스 오데 나바데레도아 세 다니에 바마솔라 미네 도와다 테나 제마롱 향바당 도와다 테바 주지 팔랑 향바 안에 향바당 도와다 테바 수제비 안에 호와인 서베 어디 몸도 어디래서
the nipa nampar
네바래
nampar lesso. Okay, so so I'll just do the 8 when we have all the 8 then, because I think that makes more sense. Because Rinpoche just went backed up into the outline, so we're going to end up there again. So we might as well just do this. So when we go back to the original outline, and we have those different categories, 9 categories that Jayan Sheba breaks it down into. First, the object of observation of love. When we turn to page 42 in the English, we can see that the Tibetan brings us through all of these sections. So the object of love. So it says the object of love is living beings who do not have happiness. So we found out the object of love is friends, enemies, and neutrals. I see how this happened. I thought we were supposed to be here, but so the point that was made over here. First we cultivate it towards our friends, then we cultivate it towards our neutrals, then we cultivate it towards our enemies. All of those points made there are the objects of love. So that's the reason that we went forward is to understand clearly what the objects of love are according to the Lama Tsongkhapa. So Jayan Sheba says the first is the object of observation of love. So we've learned that the object is we start with our friends, then we move to neutrals, then we move to enemies, and then all sentient beings. Then we have the process of cultivating this. So the process is there's a large amount of information here where it says that we are first looking at our friends and relatives, then looking at our neutrals, and then looking at our enemies, and generating this desire for them to have happiness. So the process is repeatedly thinking about this, doing this again and again and again, and then gradually increasing the size of the object of observation to the point where it is all sentient beings. So this is the process of doing so. And the J, you're
다 송바 샴바
I
군
see
펜
why.
들어와.
The 8 are in here.
송바 샴바 군 펜 들어와. 셔와 타트 TV 신다나 초바나모 밤에 제네바 제수나라 데이터 주베 샴바 당당 참메버스 제응어보 신도 자치유 유타도 샤자토발아서 따불라 신라 뒤따도 초발레스 초노소나 쳐브로와 네 샴바 공부도 소나 들리치그레스 소나 치초와 송바 danse, whatever somebody.
The Gomolodru Sheching? Kabiare Rinpoche.
Well,
The Gongel Mebachik, Ngay Genda Dot.
Shedin Marmar.
The Chu Kabiare, the Peik.
Pay then what? Sonja Ngolma, the Tombo, the thing at the Jabas Tombro.
Then, eh? Okay.
Thing at Jabas, what the Somba J. Then Jiba to Jambeji, Shinko was a Jiba and Wajiba.
Oh, okay.
Jambeji Shinko was.
Okay, Gongo.
I changed the
Okay, so Rinpoche said, I'm sorry, I mixed it up in the beginning, but it actually, in my eyes, was helpful because we ended up learning more extensively about the first categories anyway. So I'm curious if that wasn't on purpose, but Rinpoche said we're going to go through it in the order with the text because he said he mixed it up in terms of how you find those 9 in this section. So number 3 begins here. With respect to the benefit of love, the King of Concentration Sutra states. So we have the object of love, and then it says the subject. I'll just read it. That's easier. The object of love is living beings who do not have happiness. The subjective aspects are thinking. So this is the process. How nice it would be if beings were happy. May they be happy. I will cause them to be happy. So this is the process. You're thinking, may they be happy. I'll cause them to be happy. And thinking about this, friends, neutrals, enemies, then everyone. And then it says, then, with respect to the benefits of love, then we have the quote from the King of Concentration Sutra, the Tingenzin Jelpo, and that's where it begins. And then the 8 are actually in the next stanza in this quote that we're going to find. Always offering to superior beings as many countless offerings as there are in billions of lands does not equal a portion of the benefit of a loving attitude. So here we see how great this loving attitude is. It says that the benefit of love is far greater merit than continually making vast offerings to the highest recipients, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Okay, Diksun.
Oda jeba deredo, jeba jambe ji shinko le chance, jambe ji shinko jambe yangi shinko do jujerwa.
Vijjipa.
Jambe o jeba re jeba.
So number 4 then is the array of qualities in Manjushri's Buddha realm. So this is category number 4. It's a quote from this text.
Jambe ji shinko le chance, shanshe ji tsanas, shandan shag tsana, shandan shag tsana, kaza. East south kaza.
Southeast?
Southeast. What the shanshe tsanas, shanshe ji tsana. Northeast.
Northeast.
Sentient na dewa de nos ne ter lo shewa jatun do chanshui jebe ne shindir tana shegu bi yu zang ji sentient tang la mi shambi sentient na hama le sona she shin do mo wa je na ni chen do ne ba ta je me she son ba ta so wa de jiba de lo jiba ta ga de changer ji ta na song ji wang shu xin mi ji dian ji kan je dong ge jian ba yu sa ro ba de na glong go ba la nyo ba shu ba glong go ba la nyo ba shu ba shu bi de wa jin do xin jian na ja de wa da de no de wa che bi wa re
Go dan.
na de lo shi wa ja dong do chang ba shu bi xin de na ta na what the 자동 도 거와셰비 거와자셰비 셔라로 타나 샤마 유장 공부하는 소나 대책을해서 소나 대책을 내도도와 타나 세금도비 유장도 내리지게 샤마 공부하나 세제 단계라 샤비 세제나 하마레 소나 제신 모두 제나 하마레 소나 신도 모아 제그레스 년세도 내봐 따지면 년세도 샤바 공부하이나 소나 접은 인발 계자시고 먹어 버렸어. 시바 당서 what the 시바래.
So number 4, it's just the category heading really is just the name of this sutra. Rinpoche, the Doyin. This Doyin. This sutra. So the array of qualities in Manjushri's Buddha realm sutra states, in the northeast is the land of the conqueror Bodhisvara, called decorated by 1,000 universes. There, living beings have a happiness which is like the bliss of a monk who experiences a cessation. If you generate a loving attitude here in Jambudvipa towards all living beings for merely the snap of the fingers, the merit produced greatly surpasses the merit gained by keeping pure conduct there for 1 trillion years. Is there any need to mention the merit of abiding in a loving attitude both day and night? So here it's showing the greatness of generation of a loving attitude and saying if we were to compare just the moment of generating this loving attitude, just a moment that would be the same as snapping a finger, to spending 1 trillion years keeping pure conduct, the pure ordination, the fully ordained status. If one kept that for 1 trillion years in the northeast land, called decorated by 1,000 universes, it wouldn't be as much merit as the moment of love. So that's the point of number 4. Rinpoche, Chutsu Jupa.
Okay,
medicine.
the collateral.
Then Rinpoche, ngapa the J.
Ah,
Ngapa the AYJ, Panyung AYJ.
ngapa
Rinpoche.
tanmata kaleta jiro.
Okay. Gangyang Sina, the Panyung AYJ,
Yeah.
you're right. The Lung.
Yeah, who's
Shi
never
Ting.
tiro.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break and we'll hand out snacks. And
Yes, stuff. Tā ngā sō wā tē ngā bā tō wā tē rīngshēn chēng wā tē nō rēn duwa. Ngā bā tē nō wā tē sōng jā ngā kē chīng sōng chū gō chō chū jī lō chū jī lō rīngshēn chēng wā sī tā kē wō tē rē. Jē bā wō tē. Ngā bā tē rā wā ngā bā. Shāmbī pēngā ngā wā tē rīngshēn chēng wā ndō wā tē. Shāmbī pēngā tē rā yō bā tē sō sōng bā rē sī na ngō mā lō dō kē rīngshēn chēng wā kō sōng bā rē sī. Rīngshēn chēng wā lē sī ndē dō.
that's so.
Zhu sonji gazeta, zhu sonji gazeta, zhu sana nga so sentient so de log marbe. Zhu so gan so ge khala nam da sonja yu sonja gazeta ni re jin do shu ke ni go ane breakfast lunch dinner tu ta do de jin ba le tu son jin be chang tu son jin ge na na go chi shi da ro re de go do de shamba yu zang tang ji gi so na de le che ge re shamba yu zang go ba yin na shamba yu zang tang ji gi so na da la cha me bus o de so na de she da ja che ge re yo dans shamba go ba yin na hai ga ba je ge re mai ga ba je ge re ham shamba jo dans ham shamba jo dans Tada jang ne song wa dans la zama du ce que ne song gres tada jang ne song wa dans de ya bu do de ren xian chang wa dan de ka dan do e de wa dans
They
e de
need
wa dans de mo dans en sen ji bu shi da yong gres mo dans do dans chen ji ne me dans do ge zu ma re chen ji ne ge ma re do dans chen ji ne me dans be ba me ba ton to ka le me ba so su ge don da de la ba jin to gres an sa bi ji ne de che gres sa bi ji ne jin ju de ge de zhuo ma ju chang ge de ta ba dang ta ji ji ko al zhuo ma ju chang shang ju yuan de je tu bo ko al zhuo ma tu na shang ba gong pen de shang bi ju yuan de je da ma tu gres song de sa de
they drew.
ah
They drew.
zhuo se me je duo
J Tranka Ja.
zhang ga je de na duo de xian chang wa le
Tambo.
Jin bi jiang
Medan La.
tang bu sun no cha me be tang bu ji ha me xiang ba ju ni ba ji
Okay,
Tada
Tambo
ge-
Gare.
tang bu de ro da a zu zu de jin ba le jiang xiang ba yu zang gong ba de pian chi ge de tang bu ji
Dead School.
de ren xian zhong cha song du
Even.
ren xian zhong ku su bu xia den bu xia
Yeah, the bench Becha Dena, the J Omari, NGK,
jin du
NGK Tomba, NGK, the Drew Yure, Ni Yomari.
in chi lu da de lu da
Shit. J NGK, the J Yure, Yene, the Ni Tomba.
de du cha song du
Okay, Sheting. Then a Tambo Dondagare.
ren xian zhong le zu su song ji ka je da
Zuchu.
Ni du song jin ba yu jiang xiang ba yu zang gong pen che si tang bu ji
Zuchu, this Dondagare.
tang bu ji ane ka la len bada pa si len chu jin ne du da de jin ba so na che bu ro so na che bu re de xiang ba yu zang gong ba so na che ge re si tang bu ji ni ba de la dang ma su ga bu ji ge re si la ma xiang ba jo wa dang si ni ba ji la ma de da ge ji song ge re si Teda Jan Song Tans,
That's so? Okay.
Doa Moas, and San Jibo Mobuyungres, Doa Moa Tan. Do don't change your name to Tugunagmari, change your nagmaris, Neme Tans, Beba Meba Tuntu Tan. And the Tambi Jiden to Chagres, Halchendagres
Vid dun rason.
Get the draw Maju Jan, Shanchu and then J2 was.
Then Tambo the shuge ninkun gonta dakpar the gewa sunam cha Tambo. Nipa
Le,
hla
Dutu Sonji, Kazeta, Nerijin to Zimbi Jan, Sona Shamba Yuzang, Sona Chamabe Tambuchi,
Tambo.
Lama Shamba Jo, Nibachi,
Nipa.
Tadakan Song Jibaji, Idwa Mua Jibaji, Jibare, Tudan Sanjimu, Nabaji, Beba Meba Tuba,
Drupa.
and then Tambi Jiden to Chiwa,
Dumba.
Get the Chiwa Maju Jan, Shachi the J2 Bosa. J things
Then the Brahma Jewa, then a Jepa gare. Dumba the Brahma. Jepa?
Jiba Shanchu and then J2 Jiba in the Mara.
Shanchu.
Get the draw Majijan, Shambi Chu and then J Togres. Son days.
Jepa the gare.
Ta wool man or the Jiba the Shambi Chu J2 in some other.
Shampi Chu J.
Shambi Shanchu J2 boss. Shanchu and then J2 was what the Jiba in some other.
Shanchu Yun Ten J.
J2 boss.
Enlightened. Okay.
Could the seed because the danger 7 do. The Shenchon.
You know, the NGK Tomba, could see Kashe Tomba, the Kajor June.
Agent nobody in the Shenchon Kuron Yajiro, Delta.
So we're just looking at number 5, and number 5 is a quote from Nagarjuna's Precious Garland. And what we're going over is, if you look at it in English, if you count, it says, let me read it. Moreover, Nagarjuna's Precious Garland states, to offer 300 small pots of food even 3 times a day does not equal a portion of the merit of a fraction of an instant of love. Even if you are not liberated through love, you will attain its 8 good qualities. Deities and humans will love you. They will also protect you. You will have much physical pleasure. Poison and weapons will not harm you. You will attain your aims effortlessly and be reborn in the world of Brahma. If you look, it says you will attain these 8 qualities, and then there's 6, if you count it in English. So there's an omission or something. I mean, am I counting it wrong? There are not 6 there in the English? Does anyone find 7 or 8 in the English? If you find 7 or 8, let me know. But I'm going to, Rinpoche is saying that number 1 is that when you have the benefit of love, you have this love, morning, noon, and night, you're constantly generating this merit. So this is the first benefit. I don't see that in the English, but and I'm trying to find it at break in the another translation of the Precious Garland. I mean, Letter to a Friend. I just couldn't find it in time, and we just started class. So, and then in looking at the Tibetan, I can just translate it like I'm doing right now. But I just was making sure that I'm not misstating that. Did anyone see it in the English? No, right? Anyone who's looking at it? Okay. So number 1 is that you continuously achieve this virtue. Number 2 is that gods and humans will love you. Number 3 is that you will be protected by, it says they, so deities and humans. You will be protected. Number, where are we at? 4? You have a mental and physical bliss will occur. Number 5, poison and weapons will not harm you. Number 6, you will attain effortlessly whatever you wish for. Number 7, you will be reborn in the world of Brahma. In number 8, it says that you will achieve the excellent quality, you will attain the excellent qualities. You attain these excellent qualities. It says of the 8, which is strange because that's one of them, but it counts as one of the categories, that these excellent qualities of these 8 will be achieved by having it. So excellent qualities in the 8s, and these 8 will be achieved. I wish I could look at it more clearly without just dragging on time, but so those are the 8. And I don't know what happened in the English in here. Digson.
That then she soon de Shamba Yuna and then do the Shamba Yuna, Ham Shanxin, Mark do us. Shamba Duba in a Hadam Shamba Jigre, and the Hadam and Nagan doing this. Nagan do a dance. Jayu Jan, Dudi Shambi Doji, Pomban Zebi, Son Yu Chudu, Son Sauce. Ne jayu karsugure shamba yena ne lam shashin ngagin dogres shaja toba ne so jeka lam doji denle ne dyg ma yu ba marba dyg ma yu de sonjil ka ga sonja yu marwa sonji shamba go ne dydi shambi mo jombas shamba go ne dyg nga towa wo de son de sare jayu jan jawa shaja toba jan dydi shambi doji Pombanzebi, Son Yu Chudo, Joa Son Sos, what Debatulindere, Nabatere.
The Kanga, Ngapa? The Sheching Dangde?
Son Sos, what about Nabare?
Okay. So it also, number 5 also contains Lama Tsongkhapa's slight commentary. If you have love, deities and humans will love you and will naturally gravitate toward you. Moreover, the conqueror defeated Mara's enemies with the power of love. So love is the supreme protector, and so forth. And so forth, meaning the other points that were made among those just made about the qualities of love. Here, deities, humans, everyone, it says, will have affection for you, will care about you if you have this realization. And then it goes on to tell a story of Buddha Shakyamuni. It says the conqueror here is, and the conqueror is referring to Buddha Shakyamuni at his time of passing into nirvana, time of death, when he was being tempted by Mara's armies. His meditation upon love did not allow their weapons to harm him, did not allow the armies to harm him in any way, because his meditation, his familiarization with love was so strong. So here, this story from ancient India, when Buddha Shakyamuni was with us, shows and highlights the strength of this meditation upon love. It says, defeated Mara's armies with the power of love, so love is the supreme protector, and so forth. So if we're looking for some sort of protection, love is truly the strongest protector, based on the story of Buddha Shakyamuni in ancient India. So all of the weapons that were being hurled at Buddha Shakyamuni, and all of the arrows and so forth, knives, everything was turning into flowers before it could penetrate him.
What about the Nabadre, that Druba Denamatare Druba. Druba Denatena, Chikayan, big with this. Shamba, young Shamba, the Julia Kali Cabaret, in a college of the big woods. Dena, Joa Kayan, big with this. Laudulis, Laudu,
Latu, the Tome.
Tome Papa Tome,
Lesso, Latu.
Laudu. Tome Papa Tome, Yeroa, Sanga. Laudu le, Sir Tamba Linjong Yu, Shamba dance. Laudu, Sir Tamba Sindo Yorondo. Can you? 간주 놀 수요 세요로 수요 담바 렌종유 ane suyo damba le shambi ku song dewe jirwa. Suyo damba le yung shamba dang, henji gomba, tenbi tsiji nas, suyo damba le yung shamba dang, henji gomba, tenbi tsiji yusar tsiji. Tsiji nang la, tsiji na ji, sante, tsiji na ji sante, ta na, tsi duen ne gomba song sos. Ane sen san shira tama tu ne tsi kurung duen go res. Tsi gali ne gali sen san kong go jirwa. Wate song wate ba dul chupa re. Shamba di chikka yang ane gali jan kong go res. Wate chupa dire do chupa.
Okay, so number 6 begins, thus, although love is difficult to develop, you must strive to do so. So it's saying that, yes, developing this love that we're talking about is quite difficult, but that doesn't mean that you don't try. You have to try, and by doing so, it will eventually arise. The Compendium of Training says that you should think wholeheartedly about the verses of the Sutra of the Golden Light. So the Compendium of Trainings is a text written by Master Asanga, and here that's would be considered from the Tenjur, the authentic Indian commentaries, and then the Sutra of the Golden Light, the Savarna Prabhasa Sutra, is from the Kangjur, the pronouncements of Lord Buddha. So Master Asanga is commenting on and quoting this sutra of Golden Light, and it says, which discuss the cultivation of love and compassion. That's it. It further says that you should at least. That's it. Number 6. Okay.
Da dunba tsi dene sa to dunba re, dunba. Dunba tsi dene suyo dambi ne nga chen mawa yi, suyo dambi nga chen mawa yi, tongsong jiden song dena, tongsong jiden song de sawu satin sala, tongsong de sawu satin sala song de jirwa, tongsong zo me kang song jago yo na che se yo jimare, tongsong jiden song denas, nga song do nga shenji do nga ta, nga song do nga ta, shenji se ida yi jirwa ta, shenji do nga ta, yu do nga malaya, matan halaya yu do nga yodrwa, yu do nga shewa shos, te phalang da ma jimudu, te dunba rendu.
The Dusung, Yure, the Dukan, Zukan, Zumekam, Yurebe, Rinpoche?
Tongsong sendua, tongsong de sawu satin sala.
Okay,
sawu satin sala.
Okay. Sau.
Tongsong wa tene jana du.
Sau under.
Sala.
Under, on, above.
Sawu satin sala.
Okay. The Dukan no Yomar. Okay. So number 6, we find the quote, the words from the Golden Light. So here it's saying, number 6 is, 5 is saying to recite these. I'm sorry. Natsukabu, what number are we on? I'm just mixing it up now. Is this 6 or 7? Natsuka, the Trankagare. Okay, we are on number 6. The Ngapa.
Tena chikka yang se be gudes. Shamba de yule ja kabres kalejan be gures.
The
So shamba
oh, okay, the Nyamdu.
What the drubaro.
Okay, so this is all number 6 together. Because I knew we had moved. So number 6 also includes the quote itself. So it doesn't stop where I stopped reading. Rinpoche just stopped reading to comment. Number 6 contains all of this. Thus, although love is difficult to develop, you should think wholeheartedly. Difficult to develop, you must strive to do so. The Compendium of Training says that you should think wholeheartedly about the verses of the Sutra of Golden Light, which discuss the cultivation of love and compassion. It further says that you should do at least that you should at least recite and meditate on the following verse from this sutra. First is the advice and then the actual words of the sutra contained in 6. Through the sound of the sacred golden light's great drum, may the sufferings of the miserable realms, the sufferings brought on by the Lord of Death, the sufferings of poverty, and all the sufferings be extinguished in the 3 realms of the universe of the 3 billion world systems. Rinpoche was saying, in this particular case, the 3 realms, I was asking if it was referring to what we would normally think, and he said, no, it's referring to the realms underground, the realms on the ground, and the realms in the sky. So these are the 3 realms are referring to in this case. It's not the formless, what we would think. So it's referring to that, and it's saying that may all the sufferings of the miserable realms, the lower realms of the hell, the hungry ghost, and the animals, the sufferings brought on by the Lord of Death, so all those sufferings that happen because of death, all around it, all the sufferings surrounding death, the suffering of being poor and poverty, and it says, and all suffering be extinguished in the 3 realms of the universe of the 3 billion world system. So this is like a dedication, an aspiration being made within this section. Okay, Digsun.
다 제바 샴바 공비 림바레.
The Dumba Jepa.
제바 림바 타수 치든
Okay, so it was numbers that it did break up into 2.
림바 치든
Okay.
소 담비 ngachen dai. 동선 지된 손드나 내 손도에 신지 지된다 신지 도게다 유도게 도게 쇼쇼스 제송소데 건란담도데 뉘바데
Gonga me, but you sample the Muan, the Drupa Nyamdu. Okay, number 7, just where I originally had said where the break was, that's where the break is. Number 6 is the points being made from the compendium of trainings and so forth. And number 7 is the quote itself, that we went over. Number 8, the stages of cultivating love. So that's number 8. It says the stages of cultivating love are as follows. Okay, Digsung Rinpoche. Selpo Zusung.
다 듣는마
Lomason, just
제바레
Yine Lomason.
다 고반데레 고바 공비 추네 다 샤바 공비 추드 간데스 공고르스나 공비 추네 제다르 세제 동해유 추야양산나 신지 저와다르 세제라 사제다 사바메비 도와 메진 데유 폰루 야양 삼바샤데 더고나 도와다 텐드 나게 용라사 대야 도와 나 초바 남 힐라시네 다다 세제나라 타바샤오 소와토바토 구바렌도 구바.
Okay. So number 8, the stages of cultivating love are as follows. First, cultivate love toward friends. Then cultivate love towards persons towards whom you have neutral feelings. Next, cultivate love toward your enemies. Then cultivate it gradually toward your friends. So this is number 8, the stages of cultivating love. And then number 9, the way to cultivate love. How does this occur? How does one make love generate within one's continuum? So it says the way to cultivate love is as follows. Just as you can develop compassion once you have repeatedly thought about how living beings are made miserable by suffering, develop love by thinking repeatedly about how living beings lack all happiness, both contaminated and uncontaminated. When you become familiar with this, you will naturally wish for beings to be happy. In addition, bring various forms of happiness and then offer them to living beings. This is number 9, and we went over the points in this previously when we were utilizing it to explain the object of love. That is the whole outline, and I'm just going to go through it again just to make sure that I was clear from my side. So number 1 is the object of love. Number 2 is the process. It says the subjective aspects, but it's really the process of love. What are we thinking about? Number 3 is the benefit of it. Number 4 is the quote from the Array of Qualities Manjushri. Number 5 is from Nagarjuna's Precious Garland, where we find those 8 qualities. Number 6 is the point made about the difficulty by a sangha of achieving it, but still stating one needs to strive for it. Number 7 is the quote where we find the aspirational prayer to keep us striving. And number 8 is the stages of cultivating love. And then number 9 is how to cultivate it, the way to cultivate love. So those are the 9 categories from Jayan Sheba's text.
당가다 준비명아 뒤도 거라져도 마시 된denso 용거 샤바 니제 라상 세지 워데 더 거라져 레드 도와 말베 안는 것들 세뇨바 주바다 용거 나바체 주바 니도 소아 세뇨바 주바세야 데 다녀 바마송래 다녀 공아들이 소아 세뇨바 주바스 용거 나바체 주바세야 데 마시 된denso 소도 말베 마시 된denso 데 용거 샤비 주레스 마시 된denso 소도 공게나 아니 용거 샤바 줄제 오레스 줄제 오르서와 어때 임바 다든 어디 샤바 공부 취드 다린데 말해요 말봐 샤바 공부 취드 레오로
Okay, so when we then go back to the topic that we're speaking of, and we're speaking about the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment, this is how we use this to realize bodhicitta. We think about these things over and over again in all aspects. So we begin with the foundational practice of this, which is equanimity. So we have to start with this foundation of equanimity, where we're utilizing those 3 types of beings and trying to establish equanimity or an equal feeling towards to benefit those 3 types of beings. So we are working with their friends, our enemies, and our neutrals at that point of the preliminaries of this 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment. So the preliminaries are really the foundation from which this all can grow, this all can occur. So this equanimity towards those 3 types of beings is the foundation. And then we have those producers of love, that which gives rise to the actual affection towards all beings that is called love through the force of affection, or love through the force of attraction. And that is brought about by recognizing that sentient beings are our mother, remembering their kindness and wishing to repay their kindness. So we first develop this equanimity, this foundation, and then we work on this idea of them being our mothers, and then begin to develop this affection to the point where it arises, and then that is the resultant point where love through the force of attraction occurs. And that's the 4th step within the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment. So there are realizations at all of these steps that occur up to the final realization, but each of them need to occur for the next step to actually occur from a realizational standpoint. So this is why this process works this way, this analysis works this way, because it's required to be realized, the prior step is required to be realized in order for the arisal to occur of the next one, up to the final, which is bodhicitta, the mind that aspires to enlightenment. So today, we've been talking about love, and what love is and so forth. And that's how it occurs. It's through all of those other things: equanimity, recognizing sentient beings are mother, wishing to repay their remembering their kindness, wishing to repay their kindness, and then arriving at love. So when we speak of love, we're speaking of it a very large topic that requires familiarization with other topics to occur. Digsung.
this is san tamba yin na de shamba gongba to de red marba shamba gong yin to so jin de gwa mu do ne yen san ta ne shamba gongba re ron san ta ne shamba gongba re ne den san shamba gongba ro marba.
So this is the real meditation upon love. It doesn't require you to get in some special posture and put your hands in a special place and sit in a pious position to meditate. One can be laying down and meditating on love, familiarizing oneself with love. One can be going somewhere, walking down the street and meditating on love, familiarizing oneself with love. One can be sitting down in a chair and just familiarizing themselves with love, meditating on love. So it doesn't require this special position to get into in order to meditate.
어떤 가서 모자다 나루다 어디 순전한 어디 샴바도 공부이나 도든 천지 무슨 봐. 어디 야부여서와.
So we can, whatever we're doing, if we're driving a car or we're flying on an airplane, we can at the same time or simultaneously be meditating upon love, be familiarizing ourselves with love.
어디 소아야 should think service.
So this is the best, the best protector, the best protection for us. This is the best way we can be protected, is by meditating on love.
다 고바드는 희지 가도들 비지 고아마라 고여서고 자지 사제 고자용도.
Okay, so now we arrive at the next, which is the cultivation of compassion in the text. And there's a lot of information in that section. There's going to be 9 categories to explain that section as well.
단 희지 네 kuzo 안가대고 kuzo 안가라.
The rasa. The page 44, the cultivation of compassion.
희지 공부라 희지 메바네서 고요는 담부들에 희지 메바네 동해 송지 제리번 동해유 세제노스 희지 메바데 동해지 주 동해 차반 주지 동해도 대비워서 세제도 희지 메바레스.
So when we look at what the object of observation for compassion is, we know that it's all living beings that are having the 3 kinds of suffering: the suffering, the suffering of change, and pervasive compounded suffering. So any being that has any among those is the object of observation for compassion. So it says, in order to understand the cultivation of compassion, you must know the following topics. The object of compassion is living beings who experience misery through any of the 3 kinds of suffering.
단 희지 나반들에서 나반네 동해 다다다 대나 냐바다스 안 동해 제지 세제 다다라 미네 동해 대나 냐바 대나 냐베 어디 희지 지야도와 저와 주지스 네 혼란 샴바 저와 냐바 다스 저와 수시면 어디 가서 저와 샤오냐베 사성샤오면도와 저와 샤오냐 어떤 몸자도와 어디나바 팅사데 다 간데 희지스나 세제 등에지 세제라면은 동에서 되나 콜 동에 마유나 동에 매바줘나냐베 살로 희지 공부소 된사 말베.
Okay, so now we have the subjective aspects, or the subjects. I guess we use subjective aspects. That's when we go back to that last outline, you can use that as well. Like, what are the subjects of it? The subjects that occur in it. We used process before, but subjective aspects. We look at nampar, which is the word. That'll work. So subjective aspects. What are they? And it says, how nice it would be if living beings were free from suffering. May they be free from suffering. I will cause them to be free from suffering. So when we look at this, these are the subjects that are being looked at in this section. And there are these different levels of compassion that are occurring here. There's a compassion that's occurring here that is a compassion that's like an extraordinary compassion, this wholehearted resolve. I will cause them to be free from suffering. So I'll take it upon myself to cause them to be free from suffering. So we find a lot of different points here, but this section is the subjective aspects, and it's just showing what the points are that are the process, what occurs for compassion to occur.
송바다 hinji gombi korin re do 송바다.
Number 3 is the stages.
hinji gombi korin ne thoman zaje dans susugi pama dan nyela so de sul hinji gongores. Tene pama dans dada nye kaya ma imbi pami sejela min hinji gong. Te abu jongso na tene dala gong. Dala gong te zaje dan drawa dala yang senyo ban jubi tse renji shuju sentient tanji la gomos danye bama son lo de hinji de abu jongso na ane sentient tanji la mine dongen de trawa juji nya bi hinji gongores teta tanyu de shamba dan hinji la yu su su shene rejen to gomba tene chu ngabi lui jesu ndane leben kama la shile nzeba yin las ten ne shin du chede susu ma shewa tambo ne shila mi ne jamba la chewa ta na yang re ne sa na kala ya ma chewa na las re ne yi ju nywa ha da sheba der ne jema do tan de ta shila mi ne jana ane 추당 수수 간라 메장 나다 지시로 소도 받는데 지바들에 도와지바
Somba de Rimbo, Gorim, Shipagare,
소바 고네로 지바 추응빈도 세들에
Kabar Gutso.
친 지바들 친 요올이야
De Kamala Shila, Somba Jipa.
까말라실라 데 지바를 지바
Jipa.
추응빈도 이제준다네 다간데 샤바든 hinji 두수 공대야데 안 수송도스나 까말라실라게 데 추응빈도 이제준다네 송도스르다 어떤 나지 공고 내가 집도스 제르미세 까말라실라 송보다 계시부도스
Then the Kamala Shila, the Jipa Gutso Gudu.
지바
Then Somba, the Kanga Ngama.
송바 공베 제바스 들어와
So number 3, the steps of cultivating compassion are first to cultivate it towards friends, then toward those beings for whom you have neutral feelings, and next towards enemies. When you have equal compassion for your enemies and friends, cultivate it gradually toward all living beings in 10 directions. So in all the 10 directions, is where beings reside. The 10 directions is where all beings reside. Just as in translator's note, that's north, south, east, west, northeast, north, south, etc. There's 8, and then up and down make for 10. So it's all of the points you would think of with north and south and east and west, plus up and down. So these are the 10 directions. So you're gradually working with those 3 types of beings and making it end up at all beings in 10 directions. And then number 4, where do we find this point being made? Where is this expressed? And then Lama Tsongkhapa says this is a very important point, and Kamala Shila expresses it in his text. So number 4 is Kamala Shila, following the discourses on knowledge, set out this way of gradually cultivating impartiality, love, and compassion while distinguishing specific objects of meditation. It is an extremely important point. So Kamala Shila is saying that this is the way this is cultivated. You have to gradually cultivate it through this process. There's no other way for it to just occur out of nowhere. It needs this process of gradual insight. So we're going to end there, and we'll be back next week. Thank you, everybody. As always, Tu Chenrezig Rinpoche Sheda Selbuldu. I said to Rinpoche, thank you. The teaching was so clear. Sometimes it's easy for an outline when you start comparing it to a text to get mixed up because you're looking at specific points in the outline. There's 4 interwoven commentaries in this text that Rinpoche is using, and all they're doing is pointing out hard points in the Lamrim Chenmo. So when you just try to match up that one tiny section of the 4 interwoven commentaries with where it goes in the Lamrim Chenmo, it can be very difficult, and it's easy, even in my home studies, when I've tried to do it and found the section, to start going in the wrong direction because the words are all there. And you see there's a lot of repeating in texts, so you find topics repeated again and again and again, the friends, enemies, neutrals. So you see that, and you could easily go to the wrong section. So that's all that happened. But it actually helped because we learned the object of observation in a clearer way before we even got to it. So let's do the concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. And thanks, everybody, for coming. Rinpoche was so happy to see so many people here today. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wandak, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Tuji Rinpoche Gutsi Shapi Denerlang, Atsu Lamrim Chemo Kanga Chironlang.
Tuja.